The trailer for season 2 of Netflix's Tour de France documentary just dropped.
Sur ce tour, on a l'impression de passer d'un scandale à un autre.
Tu penses c'est potentiellement dopé ou pas?
I'm not taking any media.
Sponsor, il paye pas mec pour qu'il se relève dans un truc comme ça.
Ça peut te porter vers le haut, les sommets. Ça peut t'écraser.
And we have some exciting news to share.
Oh, yes, we do.
You're not Emily.
No.
Francis and I, we've made it to Netflix.
Big time.
We're going to be in the show.
I don't know what bit they're using. I know it's an old podcast, so it's before Emily was camera facing. It was when you were just a voice.
I don't even know if I was a voice at that point.
No, you probably weren't a voice.
Maybe an off-screen voice telling you what to do.
Like when we had little tiny microphones and we had to run all the audio through Adobe to make it sound like it was legit.
Yeah.
This is what we had.
That was a lot of work.
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
So if you didn't watch it last year, it's called Tour de France Unchained, and it basically follows the teams and gives a behind-the-scene look into the previous year's race. So this year's series will follow the 2023 Tour de France. It drops just before the tour, so it's a really good refresher on what happened last year and builds up some hype going into the next tour, or the current one. I know what you're thinking. How does Cade Media fit into Tour de France Unchained? So basically, we were contacted October last year by a production company who wanted to use a clip from the podcast where we were discussing doping accusations around Jonas Vingegaard and that mega TT performance. Do you remember it?
I remember the performance. I don't remember what we said in the podcast.
Because I can't remember.
I can't even remember what we said last week's podcast. It's gone from my brain.
So we said yes. We've been paid for it. We didn't know whether we'd make the final cut. However, we've now been told that we will definitely be in episode 6 for about 13 seconds. I remember when I first joined Kade Media, when we first started working together 18 months ago, one of the things I said is, I want to get us on TV. I want to get you doing TV stuff. I want to get us so big and good and amazing at what we do. We're on Netflix. And we've done it. Achieved tick.
Now we can retire.
Yeah. We are officially Netflixians.
It's a very exciting thing, but also an incredibly nerve-wracking thing, because we're used to filming stuff and being in control of the edit and being in control of the voice, whereas we've kind of handed that over. Because I remember when we were in talks with the production company, we were kind of like, what are you, especially about doping, which is quite a controversial subject. You're like, what are you actually using us for? And what I suspected is what they have said, which is they want to use podcasters talking about that point where there was speculation to sort of introduce the conversation. So one of the things we talked about is, there was that French newspaper called L'Equipe that put out the headline, exactly, saying out of this world, and it was the same as the one that they'd used for Lance Armstrong, and they were potentially implying something. So we talked about that, and I think that is what they're using, you two sort of mentioning that concept.
So it sounds like they're covering doping quite a lot in this season.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that they are going to follow some of they're going to dig into what the pros have to go through, which is why I think they're quite comfortable talking about doping. Because you would think if they're just going to make everyone look bad, then none of the teams would let Netflix film crews into the teams.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they're actually going to show how much is done for anti-doping in the pro peloton.
That would, speculation, but that would be a good guess, and that would make sense, definitely. It was interesting because the trailer actually dropped, I think, late last week or early this week, and one of the things that the press picked up on is the fact that it mentioned doping. So there's one section where there's an off-screen interviewer that says to Thibaut Pinot, do you think he is potentially doping or not? And then it cuts away before you get the answer. So a lot of, I think the fact that they're putting that at the front and centre of the trailer, clearly it is a big part of the documentary.
Yep.
And the press was sort of speculating, who are they talking about? I think we know, we're pretty confidently, at least part of that is going to be on Jonas Vingegaard.
We're a bit bored of doping conversations in the world of, when you're around cycling all the time, but it's such a big crashes and doping the two things that the general public can kind of grasp straight away.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic, isn't it, for people who might not be really into it?
Totally. And it's interesting in that episode that they've picked from, episode 7.
Episode 7 of our podcast.
Of our podcast, yeah. The big question was, should the pros be doing more to assure people that doping isn't happening? And what we were saying is, you know, if they say it isn't happening, then maybe they should be showing us more about the testing protocol. So maybe actually that is what the documentary is going to do. That would be cool. I would be interested to see that.
That is a good point, though, isn't it? Because they want this to be massive. They don't want it to just be watched by cyclists. They want it to transition out beyond cycling.
Yeah, it feels very much like a Drive to Survive sort of thing.
I've never watched Drive to Survive.
I've started watching it. I'm a few seasons back.
And you get into it, does it?
Totally. Yeah, it is interesting. I think that it's a good sort of like gateway into the sport as well. Especially, you know, you're never gonna catch up on a full season of racing, but that one season will basically tell you what you need to know: who are the big players, who's been good in the past, and what's happening within the teams and how they're changing. So, yeah, I know F1's definitely having a big moment at the moment. So yeah, perhaps it'll help cycling do that as well. Apparently it comes out on June the 11th. So we will have to watch episode 6 to see you and you on the big screen. Or is it the small screen?
No, it's the big screen now, isn't it? Netflix have obliterated Hollywood.
Yeah, true.